I extend my sincere gratitude to Laser Engineer for bringing us all together. Now, you're all familiar with the picosecond laser, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling you how much faster the picosecond laser is than the nanosecond laser. You already know this. It's like starting a laser talk by saying, laser is an acronym for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation, which you've heard so many times that you don't need to hear again. So, what I'm going to concentrate on today is something a little bit different. I'm going to show you some ways that I hope you can maximize your picosecond laser, in particular the picosecond plus. A good craftsman knows his or her tools, and the tools that are provided with the PICOplus are very, very interesting. So let's see what's available. First of all, the handpieces. The zoom handpiece has a very large range from 1 to 6 mil at 1064, and you'll notice when you move to 532 that the spot sizes become slightly smaller. This is pure physics, because the wavelength is smaller. Therefore, the spot sizes through the same optics become smaller, but it's still a good range. And the interesting thing is that the system will know the handpiece has been connected and will also know when you change the spot size, and you'll see it echoed on the touch screen. So what can you use it for? Well, in 1064, of course, for tattoos, pigmented lesions, and then for 532, red tattoos respond very well, and then particularly for discrete epidermal pigmented lesions. And then there is the collimated handpiece, which is also the zoom handpiece, and it goes from 6 up to 10 mil, which is a very nice large spot size, and again slightly smaller at 532. Again, auto detection, and clinical indications are similar to the zoom handpiece, although when we're dealing with epidermal lesions at 532, obviously they're going to have to be larger, because with 6 mil as the minimum spot size, you won't be wanting to treat small freckles with the zoom handpiece. So what's the difference between the two handpieces? Well, with the focused handpiece, you can change the spot size on the fly as you work. You don't have to disconnect and reconnect. You simply dial up the spot size you want, and it changes automatically, changing automatically the parameters on the screen. But it's very important with this system that you maintain contact with the distancing piece, because if you move the zoom handpiece away from the tissue, you can see it dramatically changes the spot size. And when you change the spot size, you dramatically change the power density, the watts per square centimeter. So always keep it in contact, and as with any laser, keep the handpiece perpendicular to the tissue. Now, the collimated zoom handpiece, you can also change the spot size on the fly, but you'll notice that it doesn't matter whether you are in contact with the tissue or not in contact with the tissue, because it's not focused, it's collimated, it's a parallel beam. And this means that we can, it doesn't matter, the distance is not critical, so this is ideal for toning, laser toning, when you can paint across the tissue without having to maintain contact with the tissue. But again, keep the handpiece perpendicular to the tissue. So, with the zoom handpiece in Pico, you can deal with these very, very faint freckles very, very nicely, 6 weeks after one single treatment. Now, of course, next summer, they're going to come back, because freckles are predisposed. Once you've got freckles, you'll never get rid of them, but you can get rid of them temporarily and very easily using the zoom handpiece. Cafe au lait macules, very faint cafe au lait. Cafe au laits are notoriously difficult to treat. However, with Pico, you can see that it has lightened very, very nicely. Low fluencies. Now with this one, you can see that in fact you can detect the spot size in the calm macule. So in this case, the fluence was a little bit too high. So start low and work high, and then you'll get rid of your café au lait macules. Seborrheic keratosis, again, baseline, a little bit of a close-up, and this is with the 532 zoom handpiece, 1 month after one treatment. Significant lightening. Solar lentiginase, again, the 532 zoom handpiece, all low fluencies. Solar lentiginase, combination of parameters, using larger spot size for the larger areas and a smaller spot size for the more darker parts. And you can see that 6 weeks after one session, there is significant lightening, excellent lightening, but no PIH, even though this is with the 532 nanometer handpiece. Now, why? Okay, this is from Dr. Wonser Kim, a very good colleague, very good friend, and he took some histology using the 532 with the 5 nanosecond Q switch, and you can see quite clearly severe disruption at the dermo-epidermal junction. Yes, you can see removal of the pigment, and you can even see some small LIOBs, laser-induced optical breakdowns around the pigment in the epidermis. But the bad thing is this disruption at the dermo-epidermal junction. That will almost certainly lead to PIH. But when you see with PICO, low fluence, 750 picoseconds, this was, look at all these LIOBs in the epidermis. Wonderful. Look at the dermo-epidermal junction. Perfect. And LIOBs in the dermis as well as the epidermis. And this means we're going to get the potential for skin rejuvenation as well as the removal of epidermal pigment. So another example of abnom with slight textural change. Again, after treatment with low fluencies, very good result. So picotoning. Well, picotoning is the follow-on from 1064 nanosecond toning, subcellular selective photothermolysis, where we selectively target pigment within cells, we damage and destroy pigment particles, but we leave the cells comparatively alive and unharmed. And this means that we can minimize damage to the dermo-epidermal junction, we can avoid inflammation formation, and if we avoid inflammation at the DEJ, then we can avoid PIH formation. Very important. So low fluence is the key to good toning. Subcellular selective photothermolysis, here you see some examples. These are actual melanocytes in a melasma patient taken before treatment. And you can see that they extend well up into the dermis from the stratum basale with the dendritic processes. And this is after treatment with laser toning. The melanocyte has had a shock. It has had a dendrectomy. Its dendrites have been curtailed. So it's still alive, and because it's still alive, the tissue will not try and repair it. It will not cause inflammation. So there'll be no PIH. So with picotoning, when we look at the PICOplus, this is the range of actual fluencies available with PICO by spot size, moving from small spot size to large spot size. And you can see that we can go as low as 0.1 joules per square centimeter, and this is important. So the key points for picotoning, even more than for nanotoning, is keep the spot size large, 8 or 10 mil. Because the larger the spot size, the better the concentration of the energy within the spot, and therefore the lower the fluence you can use. Get good penetration down to the DEJ and beyond. Keep the fluence low. You start at 0.01 of a joule per square centimeter. don't go any higher to start with, because you don't want to remove all of the pigment at the same time. We go with a layered process, remove pigmentation layer by layer, and you can go up to 0.4. But if you go beyond that, then the chances are you're going to get leukoplakia, because you're going to kill the melanocytes. And your end point is basically no end point. We don't look for erythema as an end point. What you do is you paint one side of your melasma, and then you paint in the opposite direction, and then you leave that side alone, and you go to the other side and do exactly the same sort of crisscross painting. Then touch an area you haven't treated, touch the area you have treated. If it's warm, stop. That is your end point. Erythema will appear 10 to 15 minutes later. If you treat to get erythema, you've over-treated, and then you need to cool. So that's one of the little secrets why PICO toning actually works really, really well without leukoplakia and with good results. So here's a typical melasma patient. Baseline after 10 treatments. This was with nano, but you can see the results are fantastic. Not only the clearance of the melasma, but also significant improvement in the lady's skin condition. Now, one of the interesting things is that, yes, you get PIH. This lady had a little nevus spilus on her nose. She was treated with 532, and she got PIH. She tried kojic acid, hydroquinone over a long period, but no improvement. However, using PICO toning, we can remove PIH, low fluence, 0.4 joules per square centimeter. So that's something else you add to the list of things you can treat. So now we move on to the interesting handpieces. We have the gold toning handpiece at 595 nanometers, two spot sizes, 2 and 5 mil. The handpiece is recognized, but you have to dial in the spot size manually on the screen. And you use this for sky blue tattoos, light red tattoos that haven't responded to 1064. But the most interesting things you can use it for are vasculogenic problems, post-acne erythema, post-laser erythema, rosacea, etc., etc. The absorption spectrum for melanin with your two normal wavelengths, it's kind of complementary. The shorter the wavelength, the better the absorption in melanin, but the poorer the penetration into tissue. The longer the wavelength, the better the penetration into tissue, but the less absorption in melanin. So obviously 532 for epidermal and 1064 for dermal. But then when we get a tattoo like this, after 2 treatments, all the blacks have gone, but the red and the green are still there. In fact, after 10 more treatment sessions, it didn't improve dramatically. And this is where you can use the red handpiece to attack the green pigment, and you can use the yellow handpiece to attack the red pigment and get clearance. And there's why. Because we're getting better penetration, although less absorption in melanin, but complementary colors are still important, even at the pico wavelength. Because when we look at a picosecond laser, the PICOplus, for example, is 450 picoseconds. That's still 0.45 of a nanosecond. So it's not so dramatically faster than a nanosecond laser. When we get picosecond lasers of 10 or 20 picoseconds, then we will see magic, and perhaps then we won't need so many colors. However, we still have blood, not only melanin. And then we have 532, highly absorbed in melanin and highly absorbed in blood. But then when we look at 595, you can see it's the only wavelength that's better absorbed in oxyhemoglobin than in melanin. And this is why it's an ideal wavelength for vasculogenic lesions. So this is a typical histology from a melasma patient. And what you see, of course, is good melanin production, well, not good melanin, bad melanin production in the epidermis, but down there in the dermis, look at these ectatic blood vessels. And this is a major problem that is only now being realized is almost 100% found in melasma patients. And if you don't get rid of these blood vessels, you will not get rid of the melasma, because it's a vicious circle between blood vessels and between fibroblasts and keratinocytes, melanocytes, vicious circle. So you can clear the pigment, but unless you do something about these blood vessels, you won't get rid of the melasma. And that's where the vasculogenic lesions comes in with the gold toning. Here's a typical example of post-acne erythema. You've got rid of the acne and you're left with these red marks. They're not scars, it's wound healing. Because you have an immature epidermis, you therefore have better light penetration, and you have wound healing occurring where these old pustular lesions were. And it looks red. And it will go after 2 to 3 months. But if you use gold toning, you can get rid of it after 2 treatment sessions. Here's another example. This is after 3 treatment sessions. Again, very, very nice result. Here we have, this is post-laser redness. This lassie had carbon dioxide laser, and 6 weeks later, she's still highly erythematous. So obviously she had some latent rosacea, and that has triggered this telangiectatic response. So one side of her face we're going to treat with 595, and this is the result after 1 treatment session. You can see the redness has been dramatically reduced. In other words, calmed down the blood vessels. Not destroyed them, not damaged them, just calmed them down. And this calming down is very important when thinking of the vicious circle with melasma. So this is combined with laser toning, you get some very, very interesting findings. For example, instead of 10 treatment sessions, 3 treatment sessions when you combine pico toning with laser toning. Combination is the key. So then we move on to the Ruvi touch at 660 nanometers, and this is more for epidermal, discrete epidermal lesions, not diffuse lesions like melasma, but discrete lesions, and it's a safer wavelength than 532. Because you can see the opposite from the 595. You have much higher absorption in melanin than you do in blood. So blood ceases to be a competing chromophore. Therefore, it's a much safer epidermal treatment. And when we look at melanogenic dyschromia, this is 6 weeks after 1 treatment session. On the forearms, very difficult to get rid of. And this is 18 days after 1 treatment session with 660. And when we look at it and we check it with 532, this elderly lady had the liver spots on the back of her hand treated, and if I blow up here, you can see that at 5 days after treatment, the 532 treated areas have got blood blisters. Very uncomfortable looking. The lady was not amused. She much preferred the 660 side because it's safer. It is less absorbed in the superficial blood in the dermis. Now we come to some really interesting handpieces. The focused dots handpiece. The focused dots handpiece uses what's called diffractive optical elements, or DOEs. And you can see that it's a series of lenses embedded in a matrix, and when the laser energy comes in, it's split up by these lenses to give these focal points which are arranged into the tissue, not onto the tissue. So the point of focus is actually below the epidermis. However, with DOE, a lot of the light is wasted because there's areas within the lenses where the light does not penetrate. So this particular one has only for 1064 nanometers. It's got 81 100 micron spots, and it's auto-detected. You don't need to auto-detect the spot size because it's used in contact. Spot size is constant. And we use focus toning for a variety of things that you can't normally use 1064 pico for. You can use it for skin rejuvenation, you can use it for fine wrinkles, you can use it for minor scars, and it's wonderful for striae distensae. Focus dots in a tissue phantom, you can see a single pass and then multiple passes. The important thing is that the upper part of the tissue phantom, the epidermis if you like, remains unharmed, whereas the focal area of the treatment is in the dermis. And this makes it ideal for treating things like acne scars. Right? This is 1, 2, 3, and 4 treatments. We look at it a little bit closer up, and this is after 4 treatments. Very, very nice result. They're not particularly violent acne scars, but they are treated very well. Another example of acne scars treated with the focus toning after the 3rd treatment session. Nice result. Good skin condition as well, so you're getting a bit of toning. The dual focus dots handpiece is the latest handpiece that came out last year, and it uses micro lens array technology, which is more efficient because it takes all of the available energy and focuses it into the tissue. And what makes this focus dots handpiece completely unique from any other pico laser is the fact that you can adjust the scan size from 4 to 10 mil in 1 millimeter increments. You can adjust the focal length of the MLA, the micro lens array, so that the focal point of the power can be adjusted from shallow to deep in 3 steps. Once again, auto-detected. And it's the same. Skin rejuvenation, fine wrinkles, scars, striae distensae respond very well. And it can be used at 532. And this is really useful because for epidermal lesions, you get a fantastic result when we look at the histology. Scan beam size adjustable, beam focal length adjustable. It's unique. No other system has this. So laser-induced optical breakdowns, LIOBs, are a big hot topic. LIOBs are athermal. There is no heat. There is only energy with plasma, which creates this little in the tissue, and you get these areas where obviously collagen is going to be produced through stimulation of the fibroblasts. So when we look at the different ways that we can adjust where you get your LIOBs, an interesting phenomenon occurs. On your left, it's high fluence. On your right, it's low fluence. The high fluence LIOBs are higher than the low fluence, and you'd think this would be the other way around. You'd think the higher the fluence, the deeper the LIOBs. No, because this is a phenomenon to do with the beam waist of the laser, because it doesn't come to a point, it has a waist. With high fluence, you're getting more power density in the upper part of the waist, so you get your higher LIOBs. With low fluence, it's lower power density, farther down the beam waist, therefore you get LIOBs lower. And you can see there's a significant difference. Also, when you increase the spot size, once again, increase the spot size, you help to increase the depth of the action. So this is 532. These were 1064. This is 532. Of course, 532, even though it's pico, it's still absorbed in melanin, and therefore the targets are in the epidermis. So you can see lots of LIOBs in the epidermis, and you can see that the DEJ is intact, and you can see LIOBs in the superficial dermis. This is very similar to the histology that you saw from these keratoses. exciting possibility for melasma treatment. And indeed, we're getting some wonderful results using 532 focused dots toning for melasma, using very, very low fluency, 0.01 of a joule per square centimeter. Right? And the results, this was in Pakistani skin, so dark skin, very nice results. So here's acne scars with dual focus toning, 6 weeks after 2 treatments. Yes, it's okay, but actually the focus toning was better, because the focus toning tends to concentrate more on the dermis than on the epidermis, whereas dual focus toning tends to concentrate on the epidermis rather than the dermis. Dyschromia with poor skin condition, this is very nice result. Now we can combine things. So here we say melasma and uneven skin tone with some atrophic scars. First of all, 532 nanometer zoom handpiece to deal with the discrete spots, and then the next 2 sessions with the dual focus dots handpiece. Start with the 532 and then move to the 1064, and the result, first class. Another example of the same, at baseline, senile lentiginase, treated with the dual handpiece, 532 only, 2 sessions, and then come round with the zoom handpiece to deal with the more discrete lesions. And the result, again, excellent. So consider combining the 2 handpieces. Use your dual focus toning to get rid of all the pigmentation in the superficial area, and then use the focus toning to improve the skin condition. And the combination of these 2 produces a very nice result, because combination is always the key. So what can you combine? Well, with PICOplus, you can combine handpieces, spot sizes. You can combine beam modes in the one system, because Pico has nano. Don't forget, PICOplus has 2 nanoseconds to play with, and there is some interesting literature coming out that suggests that you can use nano to break down pigment particles into a more manageable size, and then use Pico to pulverize these broken down particles to get an even better result. You can combine different wavelengths. You can combine your 1064, 532, and then you have your 660 Ruby Touch and your 595 Gold Toning Touch. And this gives you the best possible results for you and for your patients. This is Edinburgh Castle 2 weeks ago in Scotland. Autumn has arrived. Thank you very much indeed for your kind attention. Thank you.
So thank you very much. ถามที่หลังดีไหมคะ So we have a Q&A at the end of the sessions. Next, I would like to introduce next speaker, Dr. Rangsima Vanishapakdi Desha. She's going to talk about a game changer for